Hello there. Hello everyone. Tim here. Welcome back. Episode 7 of Idol. Lots to talk about today. I missed you guys. I cannot wait to do these. I always look forward to doing these. Talk to you guys, get inside of your head, let you inside of mine. So I apologize in advance. Bit of a sore throat here. And bit of a cough. Just trying to get over it. So I do apologize for any stuffy sound. And I thought about that, do I say I'm under the weather? Which is such a universally understood term. But I never liked it. What does that even mean? I'm under the weather. And we know what it means, but like who comes up with this stuff? I'm under the weather. Who was the first guy or girl to equate that to being sick or not feeling well? I wonder how that came up in conversation. It's so weird. Technically, you're always under the weather, right? It's just one of those terms. But nonetheless, I'm back. Can't wait to talk to you guys about today. A few things happened this week so far. I just want to start off by saying rest in peace, Craig Mack. Rest in peace, Stephen Hawking. We had two people, one more culturally significant than the other. I'll let you guess who. Two icons in their own regard passed away. Definitely Stephen Hawking. I want to touch on Stephen first because, at least in my neighborhood growing up and the culture that I'm a part of, Stephen Hawking is a nameless, faceless person. Not too many people are interested in quantum physics and quantum theory and things of that nature. At least until they get to high school or they're taking some level of science and his name is kind of dropped. There's certain people in life, certain figures that you really don't care about until you get older, either because you don't have a reference point or because you don't have an opportunity to really delve into that subject. And nowadays we live in an information age. We live in, you can just go on your phone, go on the internet and come across an article and go, hey, I didn't know that. Or, hey, prime example, how I found out about these two people dying. I didn't know, of course I'm on the internet, and first thing I'm on Facebook. We all know the world's most reliable news source, Facebook. And I'm on Facebook and I take a look and I'm like, wow, Craig Mack is gone. Craig Mack is dead. And when you hear Craig Mack, of course, you first thing you think of is Flavor in Your Air. Either that or he was the 90s Webby. Craig Mack and Webby, one and the same. But Craig Mack, obviously big for Flavor in Your Air, and still bumps to this day. Came out in 94, I believe, Flavor in Your Air, and was on his debut album, and kind of got like overlooked. Being on Bad Boy in the 90s wasn't really a good look because you had, Mace, you had Biggie, you had Diddy. They're taking the spotlight. So it's like, what are you going to do? You kind of got to get in where you fit in. But Flavor in Your Air did come out in 94. Did really, really well as a single. And was released on his Project Funk the World. Of course, duh was spelled as D-A because 90s. Project Funk the World came out back in 94, September of 94. And it was available on CD and cassette. How about that? CD and cassette. Of course, it'd have been nice if cassette tapes came with a complimentary pencil so you could rewind everything, but I guess that's just something the record stores expected you to have. A multi-purpose pencil, one for taking SATs and one to also rewind your favorite tracks on Project Funk the World by Craig Mack. So Craig Mack had the Flavor in Your Ear and the Flavor in Your Ear remix, which was huge, featured like one of the first verses solo performances by Busta Rhymes, which is cool. Of course, Biggie hopped on that, so that was cool. When he first came out, he actually went under the moniker of MC Easy, and I don't know what led him to change his name because Craig Mack is actually his real name. So he kind of wondered, like, hey, it takes balls to use your real name in the industry on one hand. On the other hand, some people, including myself, go, hey, why not? I guess you don't want a lot of people in your business knowing who you are. But my logic is they're going to find out anyway. So he goes from MC Easy, and I don't know when he transitioned to Craig Mack. I guess it was easy to make the switch. And he went from that. He dropped 3 albums. One came out in September of last year, 2017, that I had no idea about. I couldn't even tell you what it was about, how good it was, nothing with songs, anything. I couldn't tell you anything about that. But his two most notable, depending on who you ask, I mean, he had like 4 big singles. He had Flavor in Your Ear, of course, 94, hands down, best sing. I think the single alone went platinum. I wouldn't be surprised. Then you had Get Down, What I Need in Style. What I Need in Style, both coming out after Biggie's death. And I believe they were on Operation Get Down, if I'm not mistaken. But his second letter, like there's 2 albums, the 2 later ones didn't come out on Bad Boy Records, so I'm sure not, unless you were a Craig Mack fan. And when I tell you that I know a bunch of Flavor in Your Ear fans, I know 0 Craig Mack fans. I know the majority of those Flavor in Your Ear fans probably don't even know Craig Mack is the one. How many? I wonder how many of us, when we were reading about Craig Mack, like Craig Mack. Yeah, the guy Flavor in Your. Oh, oh, that guy. R.I.P. of course, and I obviously feel sorry for his family. I don't want to make light of this situation, but I'm making light of this situation. It just goes to regard you how people view death, especially if it doesn't happen to them firsthand. A lot of views on death, a lot of philosophies on what it means, and a philosopher in his own regard is Stephen Hawking. He had a lot to contribute to science, and although to my point earlier, I am not as knowledgeable about Stephen Hawking as I am, let's say, for example, Craig Mack. Stephen Hawking, at least I at least heard of him, and the biggest discovery. He had a really cool book back in '88. I forget what it's called. I think it's from Big Bang to Black Holes or something like that. He had a huge book that came out in 1988 that put him on a map, sold like millions of copies. I think the number was like 10 million or something like that. And that's when he, I guess, got put on the map. He had a degenerative spine disease. I am not going to try to pronounce it. I am not going to try to recall what it is. But you can look it up. I think he was diagnosed early 70s with this. And I did a little bit of research on him just so I can add some context to the conversation here. I didn't want to sound like a Craig Mack guru and just say, oh yeah, and Stephen Hawking, he was important. and then kind of just move on. Stephen Hawking definitely more culturally and impactful than Craig Mack. Again, I guess all depending on who you ask. But Stephen Hawking, and he was a quantum physicist and brought a lot of, no pun intended, light to black holes, and discovered that black holes actually can go away. They can, quote unquote, die, and that they are not entirely black, that some light can travel from black holes. So he was really, really big for that. And, I just definitely wanted to reach out. So there's some news for you guys, if you haven't heard already. This is being recorded a little bit earlier as my week is all topsy-turvy. We had some snow last week in Philly, and it kind of messed up the flow and the routine of last week. Some of the things kind of rolled over to this week. So I'm actually recording this on Wednesday, the 14th, and I'm sure you'll probably hear about this by the time this goes live on Friday, but still worth mentioning, still worth bringing to your attention. And it kind of got me to thinking, this wasn't originally in my plan to talk about, but again, we don't really have a script. We don't really have like, hey, I have to talk about this. And again, I'll talk if you listen, and I really feel like I'm talking to friends. I really feel like I'm just spitballing with you all. And it really got me thinking about death, and just not super philosophical, like the concept of death. What is death? I remember this one athlete who accepted, I think it was an ESPY award, and he said, death doesn't happen after life, death happens in life. Um, Although true, very deep, very philosophical, and not the area that I want to touch on right now. Most of you are probably listening to this in the morning. It's way too early to get this deep. But I guess what I want to bring up about death is just how it's regarded. Not even just culturally, like, how some cultures view it as the beginning. Some cultures view it as a rite of passage, if you will. Some cultures view it as a celebration. I know some African cultures, the funeral isn't somber, it's a celebration. Like, they even wear white, they dance, they play music. It's like a happy thing. Like, you feel happy, genuinely happy for the person, which I would like to see a little bit more often. You usually only see it, and you understand why. You spend your lifetime, you know this person your whole life, you spend your lifetime forming a relationship with somebody, and then all of a sudden they're not there anymore. So I totally get that. Well, you really usually only see happiness when the person that passes away is suffering. Like, if they're the one that was sick, they were sick, they had some physical ailment rather, and they just didn't feel well, and they had a terminal illness, and they just pass away. Of course, you feel better. It's bittersweet. And I know a lot of people will, like, turn their nose up at using that in the reference of losing a loved one, but it can be bittersweet, especially if they're suffering. They don't have to deal with that anymore. I'm sure all of us have either lost someone or know someone very dear to us who has lost someone, and they're like, look, I'm just glad they're not suffering anymore. They were in deep pain, physical pain, emotional pain, and they they're not in pain anymore. So that's where you kind of get a little happy, but it's not quite like those African or other cultures who celebrate death to that regard, but at least still a little bit happy. But the whole Stephen Hawking and Craig Mack thing kind of just got me like, wow. You have two levels to this, right? The first level is, I don't know these people personally, but I know these people, right? So you got like, oh, you hear about somebody passing away, you don't really care. And no one wants to say they don't care. That's taboo, right? No one wants to say they don't care. But you don't really care. It's outside of your monkey sphere, right? It's just something that you don't care about. You can't care about it. You don't know this person. And then you have the second level where it's like, hey, I know this person. Let's take a Beyonce or a Katy Perry or a Neil deGrasse Tyson. If these people were to pass away, you would still feel a little bit more because you're like, oh man, I know of that person. Um, and you feel for them. You can relate to that to a degree because you automatically think of what that person meant to you. How many of us put on old school songs from the 80s, 90s, or whenever you were born, and you go, wow, I remember this. This song is tied to this memory. Now, if the artist of that song passed away, you would feel like a part of yourself has passed away, or someone that you knew personally has passed away, because that person is tied to that memory. So you feel like that memory is dying. And it can be personal. But then, of course, you got the obvious levels if you actually do personally know the person. And people deal with death differently. I lost my mother and my father at an early age. My mother more recently than my father. My father was lost to gun violence back when I was 11 years old. My mother was lost to cancer, breast cancer specifically, a couple years ago. So when you experience death at an early age, you go through all the lumps right then and there, and then you take those lumps and you almost become numb to it. You do. And I've gone to funerals where you see some people kind of, stoic, and they're just there. And a part of you wonders, like, well, hey, they have a certain persona or image, they're the patriarch or the matriarch of the family now, and they have to come off as strong. Um, I think not being afraid to show your emotion is strong, but that's another topic. But they have to come off a certain way. You see other people bawling out. I mean, you can kind of like look back on it now and maybe find a little bit of amusement in it, but of course, in the moment, it's pretty somber. But some people are really hysterical and over the top at funerals. That's just how they express their love for the person that's gone. But everyone deals with death differently, and it just got me thinking. These two people passing, there's going to be a lot of people that look at it like, oh, everybody dies. And there are going to be some people who are just truly, honestly beat up about it. I remember when Michael Jackson passed away. I remember exactly what I was doing. I remember exactly where I was. And when I heard he passed away, I was just like, wow. I was in shock. But it really didn't hit me until like the year after, a few years after, when I'm listening to some Michael Jackson. I'm just thinking like, wow, there's no more music from him coming. And I just think about like musical geniuses like Michael Jackson, like Prince, like Marvin Gaye. I just think like if these people were still alive today, because they were more than just performers, they were songwriters, singers. It just kind of makes you wonder. In some cases, in Michael's case, choreographers. So it kind of makes you wonder, like, wow, you see what type of effect and influence they've already had on music and just art, period. It just makes you wonder, like, wow, what would it be like now if they were still around now? Biggie, would Biggie be better? Would Biggie be worse? Would music be even how it is now if Biggie was still around? Some people view people like Biggie as the authority, right? Would Biggie, quote unquote, allow certain things to happen if he was around? And then you got that whole thought process of, I know I might catch some flack for this, but just hear me out. You have some people who really weren't that good, but they get legend status because they passed away. And if you can pass away in your prime, of course you're going to be remembered in your prime. You're in your prime. You didn't have any opportunity to put out anything whack. Everything is great. And me personally, I don't think Tupac was that great. I just don't. Maybe it's because of the part of the country I grew up in. Maybe it's because when he was out, I didn't really listen to him. I was talking to my brother the other day, and I was telling him how you have two types of appreciation for music. The first type is you experience the music. Like I lived through Ludacris. I lived through Fabulous. I lived through Justin Timberlake. Like I lived through these people who had the rise and the fall, in some cases sustained success. I lived through this. And I listened to their music. So I can have an honest, genuine opinion about it. Doesn't make it right, but it makes it honest and genuine. Then you got people like Beyonce, for example. I can say I lived through Beyonce and I've listened to Beyonce's songs because you have to, but I don't like Beyonce's music necessarily, and I don't listen to her albums necessarily. So I'm probably going to get crucified just for saying that. The Bayhive is probably out there listening. So I don't have a good opinion on Beyonce's music. A genuine, rather. I should say genuine. I don't have a genuine opinion because I only can talk about her singles. That's it. And her features. I can't talk about track 14 off of album 4. I can't do that. I don't care to do that. So you take somebody like Tupac, I didn't live through that. And, I was born late 80s. So I got, in my opinion, unless you're born in the earlier part of the decade, I would say like 94 on back or 84 on back, the fourth year on back, technically the fifth year if you count the 90 or the 80, you know what I mean? You really can't really say, I mean, by definition, you're a baby of that decade. Like if you were born in, 79, by definition, you're a 70s baby, but you're an 80s kid. If you're born in 87, 88, 89, you're by definition you're an 80s baby, but you're a 90s kid. So I was still a kid when Tupac was around and when Tupac died. I was still a kid. I wasn't really into music the way that I am now. Like obviously a song could come on, I could be happy about it, I could dance to it. Um, but I couldn't really understand what the concepts or relate to any of the concepts. It was just sound that I like. Um, so I couldn't relate to Tupac. I didn't live through Tupac, so I can't have a genuine, honest opinion on Tupac. But when I got older and I listened to some of his music, I'm not gonna lie, I'm like, man, I could say Ludacris, T.I., Andre 3000, Eminem. These people are better than Tupac, in my opinion. Now, I think Tupac. I would love to have this debate with somebody. Please, I'll talk if you'll listen at hotmail.com. ITIYL underscore ITIYL on Twitter, or my favorite form in person. But I would love to have this debate with somebody, please. And please, an intellectual debate, not like, see, some people can't remove nostalgia. When this song came out, it was your high school prom. When this song came out, it was your first breakup. When this song came out, you lost your virginity. Like some impactful moments in your life. So you're relating this artist to your nostalgic history, and you're like, this person is good because of that. No. I got the same brother that I had a conversation with about Tupac, about how I don't think he's that great, and how he just reached, like, he put out a lot of music. I give him credit for that, because one thing I do admire is a workhorse. Say what you want about people like Young Buck or Big Crit or like Drake. They pump out a lot of music. They're always working. Logic pumps out a lot of music. He put a project out every year for like the past 6 years. And when you can do that, I admire that. Now, if all of the work is crappy, that's a different story. But I really like the effort that you can put into that. I really didn't want to turn this into a music episode, but hey, I want to keep going. But Tupac put out a lot of music, and I respect him for that. He put out way more music than Biggie did, and I like that. You live in the studio. Now that could have a detrimental effect on like other things, like your family and friends, your social life. But he put out a lot of music, but all of it was just like meh to me. Like I would listen to a T.I. album front to back before I would listen to a Tupac album front to back. Arguably, I don't think there is a Tupac album you can listen to front to back. I personally feel that way. And it's just, I don't want to be disrespectful, but I just think like when you pass away, you get this like it's just like people romanticize everything if it happened in the past. Even like a previous job, unless you hated that job, like if it was just a job that you worked at for a really long time, you met some good people, and then you move on from that job, you just think back like about all of the good times. Now to counter, I guess to argue with myself, no one wants to think about the bad times, right? It's easy to forget about those. But at the same time, it's easy to paint this picture in the rearview mirror of everything was great. You just had to romanticize everything. Same thing with relationships. If unless it was like it ended horribly, you just think to yourself, oh, I missed you so much. Like, let's take like your high school sweetheart or somebody you dated, and maybe you broke up because you two moved, whether it be college, military, work, something happened. You romanticize that. How many of you run into somebody from high school that you really weren't that? I'm not gonna say cool. First and foremost, everybody was cool in high school. You may have not liked somebody, but if you saw that person now, unless they're like gave you swirlies or like bullied you for your lunch money or picked up, beat you, jumped you or something, it's all love. I mean, you're not going to like jump for joy when you see them, but they're not like your arch rival. They're not like your freaking um, enemy or anything like that. So you romanticize the relationship. Like, oh, remember in art class when, remember when in music class when, remember at recess when, um, and you romanticize that. And if it's not harmful, I don't see anything wrong with it. But when we start, looking at like people like Biggie and I mean, I'll throw Biggie in there too. But when you throw people in there like Big L, Biggie, uh, uh, Tupac, Pimp C, these people made good music, but they're being lauded as being better than they were because of death. I think death does that. And I don't want to take anything away from the accomplishments that they. I mean, how can I? Who am I, right? Who am I to do that? Who is anyone to take any accomplishment away from anybody? You can't do that. But I just feel like, I mean, how many you go back and listen to? I mean, you take Pimp C, Tupac, Big L. You're like, that's some good music. That was great music. Oh, that was a good song. Find me a great album. You can listen to front to back, every word, unless you lived it, because it's different. You can like LL Cool J right now, but if you didn't live through his rise and fall, you didn't live through that, you can't really appreciate it the same way that somebody who lived through that would. So if you lived through Tupac, if you experienced Tupac front to back, you experienced Tupac front to back, then I may stand corrected. But then I ask the question: are you romanticizing him? Are you are you relating a song of his or an album of his or a moment of his, a performance of his? Maybe you went to go see him perform. I know anybody in my age group didn't. But if you're a little bit older and you were able to go to Tupac performances, if you were able to see him perform on stage, or maybe you were watching a music video or a music award show and he had a performance and you can correlate that performance directly to a memory of a good time in your life, just realize you're romanticizing it. I want a good logical argument. So the same brother I was talking to about the whole Tupac thing, was talking to him about Eminem. Now he's in his 40s, so he grew up in a completely different time. So it's tough to have a debate. The reason I like talking to my older brother, he has rationale behind any point that he makes. Unless we're just joking around or being silly, he has rationale behind almost any point that he makes. And we had right, we segue from Tupac to Eminem. And he grew up in a different time, and it's really tough having a cultural or any debate with someone who is old enough to be your father, because they have a different view on life. He has a different view on culture. He has different experiences with music and what it meant to him. He experienced the rise and fall of different artists that I don't even know. He has different experiences on race. And uh, someone who grew up in his era, I guess close next to maybe the Beastie Boys, didn't really have anybody like Eminem who was a different skin tone and killing the game the way they did, both culturally, lyrically, musically. And I personally feel that Eminem is the greatest rapper of all time. Period. No debate, in my opinion. Now, I think there are some rappers out there who do things better than Eminem does. And I think there are some rappers out there who I would rather listen to over Eminem in some cases. But lyrically, Eminem can go toe for toe or has gone toe to toe with any artist out there. You find me one Biggie song, you find me one Tupac song, you find me one Jay-Z song. I didn't even mention Jay-Z's name yet. How about that? You find me one anybody song, Lupe Fiasco, Talib Kweli, Mos Def, anybody. and play me a good lyrically heavy song from that person, I'll give you a match for match song with Eminem, hands down. If you want to go off a record, so okay, we can go off of that statistic, we can go off of that metric. But I prefer to stick to lyrics. Now, of course, that's a tough debate to have because lyrics is subjective. But there is at least some common ground that you can find with lyrics. Like, hey, I understand what this person was going for. I don't think it's hot, but I can appreciate the lyrical finesse of it. Um, One of my favorite, and then you got another thing like flows. Biggie's flow on what's the name of the song? I want to say I'm Coming Out, but that's not the name of the song. What's the name of the song? But you know which one I'm talking about. Bigpoppa. No info for the DEA. That I love that verse, that flow, lyrically, everything about that verse is just so good. I would just say definitely top 25 verses of all time. If you categorize features, just so good. Um, Eminem, I just like I'll find a flow, I'll find a song, and I think a lot of reason Eminem in some circles gets a lot of bad rap is I think he falls into the same realm as Ludacris or even Lil Dicky, where you have satirical lyrics and um they joke around and they're silly and they talk about stuff like what are you talking about sometimes, and it's just funny that they don't get taken seriously. Ludacris is an amazing lyricist. His rhyme schemes can be pretty basic. Like sometimes, like one thing I really appreciate about Biggie and Eminem is the rhyme scheme can be very unpredictable. And you don't know what, like they'll take the middle of a bar and rhyme it with the middle of the next bar, and the middle of that next bar rhyme with the end of the next bar. They can be really intricate, like a Rakim approach. You know, they could be really intricate on how they do that. And Ludacris is really basic. It's just like something, something, something cat, something, something, something hat, something, 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 something bad. And it's like, so the rhyme scheme isn't great, but lyrically, like what he's saying and his flow is great. But he jokes around a lot, you know, and he makes a lot of bangers, or at least used to. So so I think he gets kind of like tossed under the rug of you joking around. Same thing with Eminem, you know. So I think they get overlooked. But just going back to the conversation with my brother, I think a part of the reason he overlooks them is just the musical taste that he had to endure and develop during the time that he grew up. You know, you figure he was a teenager in the 90s, right? So he's an adult in the 90s. So you take that and you go, okay, he's going to have more appreciation for the LL Cool J's, the Biggies, the Big L's, the Bases, the DMX's. Like he thinks DMX is amazing, by the way. I would say DMX is top 10 rappers of all. Top 15. Top 15 of all time. DMX lyrically is great too, but he's going to have more appreciation for DMX than somebody like myself would because he lived it and experienced it. He was exposed to more of it. So like I get that. But honestly, Eminem's better than DMX. But he can't relate to one. You got this white guy. Take a 40-something-year-old man who grew up during the times he grew up and has a perception of white people the way that he does. He's not going to accept somebody like Eminem coming in who's doing quote unquote black music, quote unquote, um, better than most of the people that are black doing it. Somebody like that isn't going to be accepted by certain audiences. And I love my brother, I love him to death, but Eminem, in my opinion, is the greatest rapper of all time, and Eminem factually could be the greatest rapper of all time in every major conceivable metric. My brother still wouldn't give him props at all. My brother says he's not even top 20. Which, say what you want about Eminem, you probably are scoffing at the fact that I think he's the greatest rapper of all time, but he's at least in your top 10. Some cases even your top 5. So for my brother to say that he's not even in his top 20, I think that says a lot. I think it does. But this whole episode is about to be about music. I didn't want it to be, but I really really wanted to touch on that and kind of go down that route. But just a brief recap on last week, guys. We talked about communication and relationships. We talked about where does that fall. We talked about how some people where they rate communication and how it wasn't too high on some people's list. But all of us can fall victim of not communicating well enough. I know I have. Sometimes this happens to me a lot. You ever fall into a situation where you think you're communicating something very, very well, but the person on the other end is just like not getting it. And what's worse is when they act like they got it, but they don't, and they don't want to admit that I've been on that situation countless times where I'm like I'm trying to express myself, I'm trying to say like, hey, you know, A, B, and C, and they're just not getting it, so communication is definitely an area of opportunity for everybody. And we discussed that. And I went around talking. I talked with all of you. I talked to a fair amount of listeners last week about some of the topics that I spoke about on last week's episode. And one common theme that kind of became obvious. When I say this, some of you are going to go, obviously. Some of you are going to roll your eyes. Other people are going to look forward to the explanation on what I mean by it. But men and women do not understand each other. And men and women, in my opinion, will never understand each other. We just want to. We want to understand each other. So we put forth effort into understanding each other. So I had a few conversations with some listeners. I had a few conversations with people who don't even know the show exists because they hate me and they don't support me and they don't want me to shine, so they don't listen to my show. But anyway, uh, no, I spoke to some other loved ones who don't listen, and I'll bring up topics of conversation that I talk about on the show to other people, just to bounce some ideas off of them, and just to bring it up on the show, just to see what you guys think. And the one common theme, one common thread that I notice is that, like I mentioned earlier, men and women don't understand each other. And I can't speak from a woman's perspective, but I do want to dive in and speak from a male's perspective and sit here and say, we're not as complicated as we seem. Now, see, here's the difference, in my opinion. And I know this is going to spark some debates and some eye rolling, but I embrace it. Y'all know I do. I think women, y'all know y'all complicated because how many stand up acts from comedians or just conversations that we've had with friends where we joke around about how complicated women are. I think women know that they're complicated. I saw this one post on Facebook. It's hilarious. There was like a meme, one of those Instagram memes that found their way to Facebook, and it was like, "Hey women, I have a question for y'all. When y'all upset, do y'all want space or do y'all want attention?" And then a woman responded, "Yes." Hey, when y'all upset, do y'all want space or do y'all want attention? Yes. So that little joke alone proves the fact. I think women know you guys know that y'all are complicated, and I think men, we can be complicated, but we're really simple. We're really simple. We talked about communication last week, and there are a few topics that I wanted to bring up and I wanted to talk about. And I just wanted to give you, some men are going to hate me for this, but I think more men are going to jump for joy that I explain this. And here's a disclaimer, women. Here's a disclaimer. Just in case you need me to say it, I can't speak for every man on the face of the planet, but I think I can speak for most. And here's another disclaimer. If what I say, or if I give a description that doesn't describe a guy that you've been with, obviously the guy that you've been with is the exception to the rule. So without further ado, welcome to the man's mind. Welcome to how we think. The biggest thing that we get ridiculed for a lot is not showing appreciation for certain things like hair, things like makeup, things like an outfit. Let me tell you this, and I do not mean this in a bad way. I don't mean this in a negative way. I don't mean this in a mean way. We do not care. I think a lot of women are in denial about who they dress up for. I think a lot of women don't want to admit it, or maybe they just don't realize it. But women don't dress up for men. Women dress up for women. More specifically, I think women may dress up for men, actually. I'll backtrack a little bit. I think women may actually dress up for men, but how they dress up and what they wear is for a woman. For example, if you're in a blue dress and it looks nice to us, it looks sexy to us, we might comment on that, we may not, but just know that we think it's sexy and we're like, damn, that's a nice blue dress. That looks good. But we don't care who made it. We don't care if it's Steve Madden or Louis Vuitton or Gucci, if they even make dresses. See how much I don't know? I'm probably there's some women out there probably rolling their eyes like Gucci doesn't even make blue dresses, Tim. They only make tangerine dresses. I don't know that. That just proves my point. We don't know, we don't care. Unless the man is into fashion, take somebody like Drake or Kanye, they're into fashion. Unless they are a fashion designer, unless they're in that world, unless they are a celebrity where they have to be mindful of what they wear and how they wear it, and they have sponsors and they have incentives and things like that, they're not going to care. We don't care. Trust me, we do not care. Now, if you want to throw on some nice lingerie, that looks nice. We're going to say, wow, that looks nice. We don't care if you got that lingerie from Ross or if you got it from Victoria's Secret. We don't care. In fact, personally, I prefer you got it from Ross because that lets me know that you budget friendly and we can go out tonight because you saved a couple bucks. That's all I'm saying. We don't really care. So when you see a lot of women will get upset, they'll do something with their hair, right? And they'll do something with their makeup, or like I said, they'll put on a nice outfit. And if a guy that they want attention from, whether it be a guy that they're currently in a relationship with, or whether it be a guy that they want to be in a relationship with, they just want relations with, whatever that means. Um, and that guy doesn't compliment the woman on that feature that they went out of their way to impress the guy with, oh, all hell's gonna break loose. If you buy some new heels and you come in stomping in with some new heels, and that guy doesn't compliment you on your new heels, he's in a doghouse. He doesn't even know why. There's this one Family Guy skit about this guy. It was so funny. It was a cutaway. You know how they do the cutaways, and it was like this guy was at his locker, and this girl walked up to. It was in a high school. This girl walked up to the guy with her friend, and she was like, hey Trevor, are you going to algebra? And Trevor was like, yeah, I'll see you there. And the young lady went hysterical and ran and jumped out the window. And her friend looked at her and was like, oh, you're a jerk, right? And then Trevor looks at the camera and goes, a jingle plays and it says, men, we don't know what we did. That little skit in itself, in its entirety, exemplifies how clueless we are. Because we don't care. You guys think we care that we do more than we do. We really don't. Of course, we want you to look nice, especially, it's our anniversary. We're going out. Maybe we're meeting the parents, the grandparents. We have an important business meeting. We want to take out a mortgage on the house, so we're going into the bank, talk to the mortgage lender. Obviously we want you to look nice in certain situations. We want you to look sexy in certain situations. We care about your hair in certain situations. But when you go out your way to do something, odds are we probably don't care about it. And not in a mean or inconsiderate way. It's just our mind is just not there. We're just not thinking on that level. Especially if you don't bring it to our attention. Like if you walk like, hey, I'm gonna walk up to him and ask him, where he wants to eat. And I did my hair and I'm gonna whip my hair back and forth and be really obnoxious about playing with my hair, and he should notice that. And we're probably just looking at you like, yeah, let's go to Olive Garden. some breadsticks, and leave it at that, and we won't even notice. And it's not that we don't care; it's just we're thinking about the question you asked us. You know, so it's just inside of a man's mind, like makeup. Some men are into makeup. I'm not personally. I mean, I don't. If you wear makeup, you look nice, and I like that. But like, I'm not the type of guy that prefers that. I'm not the type of guy like, hey, we're going out, put some makeup on. But if you want to wear makeup, fine. But generally speaking, a guy isn't going to go, oh, what brand of makeup? We don't care. Again, we don't care if you got your makeup from Ross, from Walmart, or from Gucci. We don't care. And to prove my point, I don't even know if Gucci makes makeup. We don't care. Eyeshadow is eyeshadow to us. And trust me, some of us only know that it's eyeshadow because a woman told us it's called eyeshadow. We don't know as much as you guys think we do. Trust me. And we don't care about the looks as much as you think we do. I'm a firm believer until I'm convinced otherwise that women dress up for other women because the woman knows. The woman knows what brand of makeup it is. The woman knows the quality. The woman knows the tone of mascara you're using. I'm probably gonna get crucified for saying wrong things like, oh, mascara doesn't have tone, Tim. Again, I don't know because we don't care that much. A woman knows what kind of bag that is, and if it's real or if it's fake. A woman knows how much you spent on that necklace. A woman knows where you got your shoes from and the quality of them and how much you wore them. A woman knows if you wore that dress last month or not. A woman knows that. A man doesn't know that much. A man doesn't care that much. So women are more self-conscious in that regard because they think another woman is going to call them out on that. It's an interesting dynamic where you want to impress a man, but you go, it's like you need the approval from the other women to do that. And for all of the women out there that says that they don't care what other women think and that that's not true, go ahead and ask your man if he didn't buy it for you and he didn't tell you, or you didn't tell him rather. So if he didn't buy it for you and you didn't tell him what it was, go ahead and ask your man what brand makeup you have on. Go ahead. So watch what he says. Listen to his answer. And then go ahead and ask your a friend of yours, a female friend of yours. I bet you she knows the answer. And this is what it boils down to. We care about looks on the surface to a degree, like if you're attractive to us or not. But we don't care about brands. We don't. So hopefully it provides a little bit more insight for you all. And you understand that and you see where we're coming from. Now appearances do matter, but they don't matter as much as y'all think we do. And there's certain women out there. I remember Dave Chappelle had a bit about how it doesn't take that much to please a man, and all these articles out there that are written about like 100 ways to please your man are written by a woman. It doesn't take that much. Go back and watch that Dave Chappelle skit. He breaks it down almost perfectly. It does not take that much. Now, of course, men, we have some opportunity in getting to understand women a little bit better, but I think women, to be fair, you guys are way more complicated than we are. I hope you know that. Especially when y'all want us to know what y'all thinking. When y'all get upset at us and y'all want us to know what y'all thinking, and when we don't know, we don't care. That's the best thing in the world. That's beautiful right there. So hopefully that provides a little bit of insight into the world of the man's mind, and hopefully that'll help you guys and ladies understand a few more nuances and caveats of the male's mind. I had one friend of mine. He's talking to a guy right now. He's trying to get in a relationship with this guy right now. He met while out at a club in Philly. And he was just venting to me a little bit. He called me up just talking to me about how, the guy that he's with is just so oblivious to certain things. And I'm like, oh, well, what do you mean? And he's like, well, I wanted to eat. I wanted to eat at, the place that. So he met him in the club, and then they hit it off, and then after the club they had went to some diner, some 24-hour diner, and he thought that was romantic. He thought that was cool. Like, hey, after the club, it could have been a one night stand. It could have been, sometimes you find some good people in the club. I personally don't think that's where you need to go. I think that's where you go for good sex. I don't think in some cases bad sex, but I think that's where you go for good sex. I don't think that's where you go to find the love of your life, but it could happen. And I think that was pretty cool that he met a guy that, they went to a diner afterwards. It could have been a one night stand, but it wasn't. So he's talking to me like he was upset with the guy because he wanted to go out and eat, and he wanted to go to the diner that they went to, and he didn't flat out tell him, and he got upset with the guy because the guy didn't put two and two together and know that he wanted to go back to the diner that they ate at the night that they met. Come on, we're supposed to be mind readers now. I guess that's just supposed to happen. I would love to know, ladies, please. I'll talk if you'll listen at hotmail.com. ITIYL_ITIYL on Twitter. Or if you're a listener of the show and you see me in person, please explain to me, please, why y'all do that. And I want to use vulgar language, but I can't. Or rather, I won't, because it's not that type of show. But why do y'all expect us to know stuff? In the ladies' defense, there are some things that we should know. There are some things that we should know. It's just we're not good at considering multiple things and multitasking like you ladies are. You guys got that down pat. We don't. So we can be really absent-minded sometimes and just 100% focused on whatever is in front of us. So we were supposed to go pick up milk from the grocery store, but we were so focused on getting home and doing the dishes that we forgot to do that. So women can have a very perfect agenda laid out in their head on the order that things need to get done at, and tackle all of those things. Men aren't always like that. We need to write it down. We need lists, ladies. Help us. There you go. We need lists. Make a list for us and text it to us. Put it on the fridge. Tattoo it to our forehead so we can see it when we look in the mirror. Make a list for us. That way we can check it twice, and then we'll get a little bit better. But ladies out there, please help me understand why and y'all it's like we get in the doghouse for like this, in our opinion, because I don't want to take anything away from anything that's like super serious, but in our opinion, we get put in the doghouse for the dumbest things. You want to know, ladies, one of the most entertaining things in the world that you will ever experience is listen to your boyfriend or the guy that you're involved with right now, or your husband, talk to his friends, his male friends, because his female friends they'll shake their head like, oh, you're an idiot, you should have did this. But most male friends, they're just as clueless. The most entertaining things that you will ever experience is listening to your husband, your partner, talk to one of their male friends about why they're in the doghouse. It is we are so clueless. We have no idea. We have no idea, trust me. And it's innocent. It really is innocent. I know, ladies, you guys, you look at us like we just don't care or we're being inconsiderate. But we're really being innocent. We really don't know any better. Just we're idiots when it comes to certain things, and that's one of them. Just cut us some slack, please. How about how about we just learn to communicate better? How about that? And on that note, and on that note, I'm going to let you guys go. It's always fun. I always have so much fun talking to you all. I really do. I can't wait until I'm able to have more of an interaction with you all. And I do have something brewing that I'm really excited about that I can't wait to introduce to all of you. It's a new level of interaction, and if there's any way that I can improve or expand upon the interaction that I have with you all, I'm going to jump on it because I really do enjoy talking to you all, especially in person. The most amusing thing to me is everyone's faces. I love the faces. when you hear a topic that I'm talking about and it just cause you to roll your eyes, and then the first time I see you for the day, you walk up to me and you have that face on like I got a bone to pick with you. I love that face. I love it. I embrace it. So I look forward to that. I look forward to seeing you all this week and next week. And I look forward to hearing from all of you. Please, and the show is longer now, everyone. So I encourage you all to reach out to me even more now at the email that I'll talk if you're listening at hotmail.com, or on Twitter, ITIYL_ITIYL on Twitter. So that way I can read you guys' thoughts and opinions on the show. I would really like to do that. And in the meantime, everyone, take care. Enjoy the rest of your week. Enjoy the rest of your day. I'll talk to you soon.